asked Deja to write a love letter, just like the one that you received. And the question is, Deja, when did an act of love change everything for you?
Thank you for such a great question and for having me tonight. Thank you, Tucson, for showing up and participating. Thank you to my seatmate for pouring into me and sharing such a great moment. Now I get to share my letter with you all. So, dear friends, when I was a teen, I moved out early when I was just 15 years old. And I had to navigate a lot on my own. Housing, day-to-day transportation, access to reproductive care, like birth control. And I'll never forget when a Planned Parenthood organizer, someone who I'm blessed to call a friend now, asked me to join a training, a storytelling training, something we just got a master class in. And when I responded that I couldn't make it, she asked me why. I shared that I didn't have a way to get there. And she said just a few words that I think captures what it means to organize and to organize with love. I'll give you a ride. With that act of love and care, she demonstrated to me that she saw my potential, and she pushed me to see it too. Love, Deja.
What I so appreciate about this story is that act of offering the tassel can be so simple. Here, let me give you a ride. Yeah. And that led to so much.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. When I was listening to this story, I was thinking about what it means to be able to offer that and to receive it, right? That when I was a teen, I was often on the receiving end, right? I was someone who needed a place to stay, needed a ride. And what it means now as I step into my early 20s, having been in this work for nearly a decade, right? Started when I was 15, to be able to offer that, to be able to offer the thing that removes the barrier for people to get involved, right? Even to offer learnings of what it looks like to be a storyteller, to offer the things that I've come to know, the things that I've had to learn the hard way sometimes, especially to other young people who are so critical, so crucial in this moment. And I love the words you use to accept that with dignity and to offer it with humility. And I know that at 24, I still have so much to receive in terms of wisdom. And, you know, I think so much about what it means to have these intergenerational connections, not just because of access and, you know, things like transportation, but also because of the wisdom that each of us carries and the years that it takes, what it means to share it with one another.
As you heard me talk about calling in the ancestors, I do feel like it took me into my 40s to understand how much I needed my ancestors and their wisdom at my back, and how I needed to consciously call upon them in order to feel fortified, to be able to keep offering and receiving the tassels. And so, you know, I don't know if in your 20s, you have, I mean, my grandfather was still alive. It's like, he was my living ancestor when I was your age. And now I'm like, oh, I need him every day for the rest of my life. What is your relationship to your elders, to your ancestors?
That's such an excellent question. And I was thinking about it while you were speaking. And I think there's so many ways that someone can be an ancestor to us. And one way that really resonates with me is ancestors in a movement, even. And I think about the framework of reproductive justice, which is really the framework through which I was brought into this work. And it's a framework that was built by women of color, particularly Black women in the 90s, that said, it's not enough just to fight for abortion, right? We need to fight for a vision that says we should be able to decide if and when to have children, a vision of bodily autonomy, and one that also says that we should be able to parent the children we do have in safe and thriving communities, right? And I think about how these women in the 90s, this was maybe 8 years before I was born, made space for someone like me to come into this work as a whole person, right? Made space for me to come in and talk about what it was like to deal with housing insecurity and how that intersects with my access to care, right? Made space for me to come in and also organize around things like ending family separation, right? Or police brutality. And I think about those women who are still around, who I've been in conversation with, really blessed to be in conversation with, and the ways that they are a lineage of a movement. And I also feel called to create something that I would be proud to pass down to people that are younger than me, right? And, I think that is in its own way a sort of responsibility, and one that I don't take lightly. But I appreciate that question. And I also love the idea of bringing in our families and really creating that communal practice. So I thank you for sharing what your family has brought to you, and for bringing your family along. That's so, so special. And just gathering us here. I wonder what it means to you in this moment to gather. When we talk about these generational differences, another one that comes to mind is that for folks like me, I have known nothing but the internet, to have a smartphone, and also have spent some of my critical years in isolation, through lockdown, through a pandemic. And as we come out of that, I wonder what it means to you to host these gatherings across the country and to really be present in community with folks.
There is nothing like being in person. Right, everybody?
So true.
There is nothing like being in person. Like, human beings need to be with each other. Our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our spirits, we need to be with each other intergenerationally, right? With children running through the aisle, with our elders, with the canes. We need to be with our parents. We need to be with our friends and our neighbors. We need to gather. And that's why it was so important. It was about a year ago. We've been building this movement around revolutionary love. So much of it was built during pandemic. Yeah. And people were just hungry. Like, we were almost trying to touch each other through the screens. Like, we could feel how palpable it was. Yeah. So when we were designing this, we're like, okay, we could do it we could do a live stream. We could do it. We need to gather in person. We need to gather under the stars. We need to gather in the forest. We need to gather at the gas station. We need to gather where we are so we can remember what it's like to be human with each other. And when we talk about how do we birth a multiracial, multicultural democracy where we all belong, look around you, everybody. This is it. We need to know the feeling in our bodies of what it's like to be in beloved community in order to birth it out there. Like, here we are presaging the world to come. So it was really important for us to give people this experience, this memory that you can all go home and take with you and know, oh, I tasted it. I felt it. I didn't just know it, but I felt it. And this is what the whole world could feel like.
Yeah. That really sparks for me something that I hold close in my change-making practice, which is that to be an activist, to be a change maker, is also to be inherently a creative, because you have to imagine what could be. It is imaginative work. It is creative work. And even if we're not able in our lifetimes in this moment to create the exact world that we want to live in, that reflects our values as we see it, right? We are able to create these circles, these moments, these experiences where people are able to live within that possibility, right? And I think it is enough in so many ways, just in our sphere of influence, something you said earlier that really resonated with me, to create those moments of possibility where people can experience and feel what it could be like. And I think that can be an inciting moment for so many folks to go out there and make it so.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we talk about our relationship with our phones? we were talking backstage.
I didn't take my phone out not one time while I was in the crowd, which is challenging for me. Like I said, I'm someone who was born in 2000. I got my first Facebook account when I was 11. Oof. And I really haven't known a world without one. Which, is something we were talking about, this generational difference. But I think about the connection it offers me, which is maybe the best side of my relationship to my phone, is that I have infinite connection. What a special time in history we live in, to be able to reach out to anyone, anywhere in an instant. Really a superpower if we look at the course of history. But also it is demanding, right? It demands our attention. It is fused with almost every part of my life. I use it as an alarm clock. It is how I capture photos for work as a content creator, but also photos of my nephew, who I love dearly, who is the child I imagined in front of me. It's how I call my mom, but it's also how I respond to work emails. And so it's a very challenging relationship. And I know something we talked about is that it's a relationship you're walking for yourself, and also when you're walking for your children, which I think is something that probably a lot of folks in this audience are asking themselves too.
It's so lovely to hear about, like, I use it as an alarm. I use it as like, oh, right. Yeah, those things are true. Because right now, I cannot find a healthy relationship with this device. I think they're designed to addict us and to divide us. And the algorithms are such that we don't have a shared sense of reality. And so it's directly threatening our democracy and our ability to gather and be together as human. And so I have found that my children literally will hide the phone in my house for 24 hours so I don't know where it is, so that I could remember how to gather with my own family and be with my children and be present to myself. Like we call it sovereign time. It's like I need to just feel what it's like to be here now. And those moments of separation, which is now what we're doing together, right? We're creating a clearing, like creating clearings in my life like that is how I can keep functioning. But creating clearings in community where we're coming together without devices as extensions of our bodies, but just hearing each other's stories, reading each other's letters, sharing our hearts with each other, like that, hearing from the ancestors. I'm like, oh, that's the medicine. That's the antidote. Until the tech companies and the lawmakers and the ethicists can figure out how to make this device healthier. It's like not your fault that you have an unhealthy relationship to it. It's like designed to corrode our minds and our hearts and our communities. And so until that happens, I know that to keep my body well, to keep my family well, to keep our beloveds and our communities well, we just got to keep doing this.
Yeah. And I love what you say about, putting that responsibility where it lives, right? Yes. That it is with the people in power and these companies who are unelected and yet legislate for 1 billion people with their community guidelines, right? Yes. In the hands of lawmakers who by and large do not know how to use these devices or understand the internet at the level of probably your kids. But it is interesting to think about what we do in the meantime, right? And I think that's something that, as someone who works in politics, electoral politics, is one of those heavy questions that, like, when we're fighting those battles, when we're demanding more from people in power, like, what do we do in the meantime? And, we have a big election coming up. I know you mentioned it on stage. I'm wondering how you're thinking about this time between now and the election and what comes after.
Yes.
Something you said about, we're still going to have to live with each other after really resonated with me. So yeah, what are you thinking about right now until the next 50 days and then what comes after?
Such a good question. For the last 20 years, every election season, I'm running a get out the vote campaign. This is the first year I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And thank God a lot of people are. And we need we need that work. But I realize that, like, I can tell you what to do politically, or I can inspire you to show up politically. And like, let me play that particular role in the movement in this moment in history. Let the bus, there's no other bus like this going across the country declaring revolutionary love is the call, because it's the call now during the election season, and it's going to be the call come January 21st of 2025. Like, this is the era that we're living in. The era of transition requires this kind of way of showing up with each other to shift culture and consciousness. Yeah. And it doesn't have to happen. It needs to start now. And so as I'm going from city to city, as we are going from city to city, our hope is that we are igniting courage inside of you to show up, whatever that looks like. Yeah. Whether it's driving people to the polls or handing water out to people to the polls, whether it's having that hard one-on-one conversation with your uncle at that kitchen table, or making sure the teenager who's disillusioned feels some kind of hope. Like, I used to think there was a hierarchy when it came to social change when I was in my 20s. I was like, the loudest voices on stage are the most. Yeah. And then I became a mama and I began to see like the politics of the playground and the classroom. And I thought, okay, the tender touch after the vigil is just as important as a speech everyone hears. The hard one-on-one conversation about the policy is just as important as the march to change the policy. The way we explain the news to our child is just as important as our social media post about it, right? Yes. All of our labors are worthy and valuable. And so as you're listening tonight, like, what is that thing that it's been on your periphery that you're like, I don't know if I could do that or say that, or with all of your beloveds around you, with ancestors at your back, might you take that step? Because that's the, one person taking that step is a courageous, inspiring act. But thousands of us taking that step, that's revolution.
Yeah, that's so right. It's about each and every one of us doing what we can, and not just what we can, but what we're really good at. I think is even a call to action to the folks here tonight, right? Is to think about what is that special something for you? Are you an incredible storyteller or an amazing artist? Are you someone who is amazing at convening your family for a dinner every week, right? Whatever that thing is that you do that you feel like you're really good at, how do you make that an offering? And I think that is sort of the question. And I know it's one that can expand and change, and the next 50 days and beyond is something I think each and every one of us is going to have to ask ourselves and hopefully apply. But there is space for every single talent out there.
And this leads me to my last question for you. Who do you want to be in this moment in history?
Why did I think you were going to ask me who do I want to be when I grow up?
No, I held myself back. I held myself back.
Oh, man. Though, I always tell folks that there's nothing I'd rather be in this life than a good role model. And that regardless of position or title, and I've, cycled through so many, even at a young age, that what really matters to me is being someone that I know my younger self, right? Who was on her own, working at a gas station, Quick Trip on 22nd and Alvernon, if anyone cares. Was fighting for better sex ed here in Tucson, who stood toe-to-toe with Jeff Flake, our senator, when he refused to fund birth control access that I relied on, right? To access care, to go on to college, to be the first in my family. I think about her, and I know that she is still out there. There is a version of my younger self out there who deserves to be protected, whose potential is worthy of good policy, that is about more than just getting by, but a chance at getting ahead, right? At creating a future. And so when I think about what I want to be, not just now, but really beyond this election too, it's a good role model for someone out there, a younger version of myself.
And a good role model makes a good ancestor.
That's a great point. Thank you for saying that.
Everyone, Deja Foxx.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.